Have you ever wondered why it feels like everyone has some kind of problem with their teeth? Cavities, braces, wisdom teeth removal, fillings, root canals, and regular trips to the dentist all seem completely normal today. Most people never stop to question it. After all, that's just how life works, right? But what if I told you that for most of human history, many people had healthier teeth than we do today? That sounds impossible. Ancient humans didn't have toothbrushes. They didn't have toothpaste. They didn't have mouthwash, fluoride treatments, electric toothbrushes, or dentists. Yet when archaeologists dig up ancient skeletons, they often find something shocking. Many ancient humans had surprisingly healthy teeth. So what happened? How did people who lived thousands of years ago end up with fewer cavities than people who can walk into a pharmacy and buy an entire aisle dedicated to dental care? The answer begins with one of the most fascinating things archaeologists study: teeth. Unlike many parts of the human body, teeth can survive for thousands of years. Long after skin, organs, and muscles have disappeared, teeth can remain almost perfectly preserved. They're like tiny time capsules hidden inside ancient skulls. Scientists can examine them and learn an incredible amount about the people who once owned them. What they ate, how old they were, whether they were healthy. Sometimes they can even determine where a person lived. And when researchers started comparing ancient teeth to modern teeth, they noticed something surprising. Many hunter-gatherers had remarkably low rates of tooth decay. Their teeth weren't perfectly straight. They weren't sparkling white, but they often had fewer cavities than modern people. Some ancient populations had cavity rates that were only a small fraction of what we see today. That's a strange discovery because if you asked most people who probably had healthier teeth, ancient humans or modern humans, most would immediately choose modern humans. We have all the technology. We have all the knowledge. We have entire professions dedicated to keeping teeth healthy. Yet the evidence suggests something else is going on. To understand why, we have to go back tens of thousands of years. Imagine waking up in a world without grocery stores. There are no restaurants, no refrigerators, no packaged snacks, no soda, no candy. Every calorie you consume has to be found, gathered, hunted, or prepared. Ancient humans ate an enormous variety of foods: meat from hunted animals, fish from rivers and lakes, wild berries, nuts, seeds, roots, tubers, edible plants, fruits that looked very different from the ones we eat today. Their diet changed depending on where they lived and what was available. The important thing is that they weren't constantly surrounded by highly processed foods loaded with sugar. Then something happened that completely changed human history forever. Around 12,000 years ago, humans began developing agriculture. Instead of simply gathering food from nature, they started growing it themselves. At first, this sounds like one of the greatest inventions ever created, and in many ways, it absolutely was. Agriculture allowed humans to settle down in permanent communities. Villages grew into towns. Towns grew into cities. Cities became civilizations. Agriculture helped create governments, writing systems, trade networks, and eventually entire empires. Human history would look completely different without it. But agriculture also brought unexpected consequences. Before farming, people often ate a huge variety of foods. After farming, many populations became heavily dependent on a few staple crops: wheat, rice, corn, barley. Suddenly, people were eating much larger amounts of carbohydrates. These foods were excellent for feeding large populations, but they also created a new environment inside the human mouth. Bacteria that cause tooth decay absolutely loved these dietary changes. Scientists can actually see this happening in the archaeological record. When researchers compare skeletons from before agriculture to skeletons from after agriculture, they often find a noticeable increase in cavities and dental problems. It's almost like watching the beginning of a trend that would continue for thousands of years. The invention that helped create civilization may have also marked the beginning of humanity's long battle against tooth decay. But as surprising as that sounds, agriculture wasn't the biggest problem. The real disaster arrived much later. Sugar. Today, sugar is everywhere. It's in candy, soda, cereal, desserts, sauces, drinks, and foods that don't even taste sweet. Most people consume more sugar in a week than ancient humans might have consumed in months. But for most of history, sugar was incredibly rare. If you wanted something sweet, your options were limited. Maybe you found some fruit. Maybe you discovered a beehive filled with honey. That's about it. Sweetness was a special treat, not an everyday experience. Then humans figured out how to refine and mass-produce sugar. Suddenly, sweetness became cheap, abundant, and available to nearly everyone. This completely changed human diets. The bacteria responsible for cavities couldn't have asked for a better situation. Every sugary snack became fuel for tooth decay. Cavities became increasingly common. Tooth loss became increasingly common. Dental disease spread throughout populations around the world. Imagine taking a modern soda back in time and giving it to someone who lived 5,000 years ago. The sweetness would probably seem unbelievable. Their brain might not even know how to process something that concentrated. Modern sugary drinks contain more sweetness than most ancient humans would encounter naturally in an entire day. Maybe even longer. And that's just one drink. The strange thing is that many of the foods we think of as normal today would seem completely unnatural to our ancestors. Modern fruits are much sweeter than ancient fruits because humans selectively bred them over centuries. Watermelons used to look completely different. Bananas were filled with seeds. Corn barely resembled the corn we eat today. We've spent thousands of years modifying plants to become sweeter, larger, and easier to eat. The story gets even stranger when we look at jaw development. One of the most common dental issues today is crowded teeth. Millions of people need braces. Wisdom teeth often become impacted because there isn't enough room in the jaw. Orthodontists are constantly busy correcting alignment problems, but many ancient populations seem to have experienced these issues far less frequently. Scientists believe the part of the explanation may involve chewing. Ancient humans spent their lives eating foods that required significant effort to consume. Tough meat, fibrous plants, hard roots, nuts, seeds, dried foods. Their jaws were constantly working. Every meal was basically a workout. Modern diets are very different. Many foods are soft, processed, and easy to chew. Some researchers believe this reduction in chewing may influence how jaws develop during childhood. Think about it this way. Imagine two people. One spends years lifting weights and exercising their muscles. The other spends years sitting on a couch. Their bodies will develop differently. Some scientists think a similar process may happen with jaws. Ancient humans constantly exercise their chewing muscles, while modern humans often don't. This could help explain why ancient skulls frequently show broader jaws and straighter teeth. Meanwhile, many modern humans require braces, retainers, and other forms of dental correction. It's a fascinating possibility because it suggests that some of our most common dental problems may actually be connected to lifestyle changes rather than genetics alone. Of course, this doesn't mean ancient humans had perfect teeth. That's a common misconception. Some ancient people absolutely suffered from dental issues. Tooth infections existed, teeth could break. Some populations had higher cavity rates than others. Ancient life was far from perfect, but the overall pattern is still surprising. Many groups appear to have had significantly fewer dental problems than modern populations. What's even more interesting is that dentists can sometimes identify when major dietary shifts occurred just by looking at teeth. Teeth record history in a way few other body parts can. Tiny changes in wear patterns, decay rates, and tooth structure reveal clues about how people lived. Archaeologists have learned about migrations, trade routes, farming practices, and dietary habits simply by studying ancient teeth. In a way, every tooth tells a story. A hunter-gatherer's tooth tells one story. A medieval farmer's tooth tells another. A modern person's tooth tells yet another. And when scientists compare those stories, they begin to see the consequences of humanity's changing relationship with food. Now, it's important not to romanticize the past. Ancient humans faced countless challenges that we no longer worry about. Disease, injuries, dangerous animals, food shortages, harsh climates, high infant mortality. Life expectancy was often much lower. If someone developed a serious tooth infection, there was no modern dental office waiting to help them. A problem that would be routine today could become life-threatening in the past. Modern dentistry has improved human life in countless ways. Painful dental issues that once caused immense suffering can now be treated relatively easily. That's an incredible achievement, but the story of ancient teeth still teaches us something important. Many health problems we consider normal today might not actually be normal from a historical perspective. They may be the result of environmental changes that happened surprisingly recently. Human evolution moves slowly. Our bodies are still adapted for a world very different from the one we currently live in. For nearly all of human history, there were no candy aisles, no soda fountains, no drive-through restaurants, no ultra-processed snacks. No giant bags of sugar waiting on supermarket shelves. Then, in a tiny fraction of human history, all of those things appeared. The human body hasn't had much time to adapt. That's what makes this story so fascinating. It isn't really a story about teeth, it's a story about civilization. It's a story about agriculture, industry, technology, and how dramatically human life has changed in a relatively short period of time. Every cavity tells part of that story. Every filling tells part of that story. Every trip to the orthodontist tells part of that story. The next time you brush your teeth, think about the incredible chain of events that brought humanity to this point. For hundreds of thousands of years, people lived without toothpaste, mouthwash, fluoride, braces, or dentists. Then agriculture changed everything. Sugar changed everything. Industrialization changed everything. Modern food changed everything. And suddenly, entire industries were needed to repair the consequences. Which raises one final question. If an ancient human could walk into a modern dental office today, what would surprise them more? The advanced technology, the bright lights, the tools, the x rays, or the fact that so many people need help fixing a problem that their own ancestors rarely had? Because maybe the biggest mystery isn't why ancient humans had healthier teeth. Maybe the real mystery is what exactly we did to ours.